good day on this wonderful day that the Lord has made. And today we're here to discuss the proposed expanded parliament. Why should we expand this parliament? There's a proposal in the draft constitution by government that parliament must be expanded by 100 new MPs. Currently, we have 165 member parliament. 156 are directly elected. 8 are nominated by the president. Then the 3 that are also proposed by the House or the president, who's a speaker, and 2 deputies. So you have 165 member parliament. Government is proposing that this be increased by another 100. This is 12 from the youths, this mixed member proportion they are proposing, 3 from persons with disabilities, 20 women, and that the number of nominated MPs must rise from 8 to 10. This is between 246 to 256, depending on how you count in the manner that this has been phrased. This is what we are discussing today. This will require, first of all, a huge budget to run the parliament, because currently it's very expensive. We have to buy 4x4s for those members of parliament. We have to provide upfront loans for them to buy those very expensive vehicles that range from $80,000 to $200,000, depending on the choice of an MP. The allowances, the salaries, then the associated parliamentary offices and fully staffed across the country is a huge cost. So to add another 100 in light of the state of the economy, in light of the state of our parliament, I don't know if parliament can accommodate another 100 MPs. This is what we are discussing today. But as usual, on Emmanuel Mwamba Verified, before we go to the main subject, we usually discuss the current issues. The Food Reserve Agency yesterday held a press conference in which they announced the maize flour price to rise to 340 kwacha. It has been received with mixed feelings, but this will definitely guarantee that the price of mealie meal will go up, because if FRA is buying maize at 340 kwacha, I guarantee you the price of mealie meal will also go up. It could be good news for the farmers that toil and that are paid only once in a year, but it also has ramifications to the price of mealie meal, stock feeds, and associated costs. This is what Food Reserve Agency announced yesterday. But of interest for me are the remarks I view of Suresh Desai. This is a former Minister of Agriculture. He's a former Minister of Agriculture and Livestock under Dr. Frederick Chiluba's government in 1993. He's a current Food Reserve Agency chairperson. I think that his remarks were very careless, especially when he was refuting the claims that were issued by the U.S. ambassador. The U.S. ambassador, remember, stated that they had donated $20 million towards drought response, and they were shocked as American government that government proceeded to buy maize from Tanzania at a far higher prices than what the market price was ruling, 48% higher than what you could buy from the market. Secondly, the American ambassador stated that out of all this, very little, to their knowledge and information, of that maize that was purchased, from their $20 million that they had donated, had actually even arrived in Zambia, because this was a drought response to which was channeled through FRA and I think DMMU. But Suresh Desai decided to question the utterances of the American ambassador, and along the way issued, I think, a careless statement in rejecting this information and called the ambassador names. Let's just hear for this, and then I give you my opinion on it.
I was reading on the social media and even in print media about some people saying that the money had been chewed and there was no maize that was coming into the country. In fact, it became so serious that even an ambassador of a very large country also touched upon it. That is how far this story had gone. Now when the ambassador of a foreign country alludes to it, it spoils the name of Zambia. It affects going forward the assistance which they give us, because they will view us as people who just chew money. So that statement was unnecessary, absolutely. That those people, if they were well-meaning, they could have come to the board chairperson, who does not know me. I have served twice as Minister of Agriculture. In the realm of politics, everybody knows me. They could have come. I would have given them the correct answer. But they chose to say, no, this only 2,000 tons has come. The rest of the money has been chewed. It was almost getting close to them naming certain people. Not me, not him. But it's something that when we were looking at it, we didn't like it. Because we understood how negatively it would impact upon us as Zambians. When the president declared a national emergency after the drought, there was support which we got from foreign countries. But now when you say no, people in Zambia are chewing the money, you will find those people, instead of helping us next time, they will stand back. And it is not me or you or the one who is propagating that statement. These are not the people who will suffer. The people who will suffer is Vene Komboni. Those people who literally live from hand to mouth. They are the ones who will pay the price. So that's why I said evil minds. Evil minds. And I will call them evil, even to their face.
There, Suresh Desai, former Minister of Agriculture, was current chairperson of the Food Reserve Agency, calling the U.S. ambassador as evil. In light of the issues we are going through, where the U.S. embassy has raised concern in the misuse of, first of all, donated medicines and medical supplies with millions of dollars, which even resulted in the withholding of $50 million. I've always stated on this program that the U.S. is the largest bilateral partner. It's not China, it's not France, it's not UK, because they've been giving us on an annual basis since 1993 an amount of up to $500 million a year. $500 million a year. When they raise concern, this is not your money. You know, they are literally running your Ministry of Health. They are running the health of our people. This is not your money. It's their money. They have a right to question you when there's misuse, there's theft. When you're buying ambulances, that can be accounted for. When you're buying medicines worth $75 million from Egypt that you can't account for properly. When they give you $20 million under DMMU, you abuse this money, and when they're asking questions, you call them evil. I think that the remarks by Suresh Desai were extremely careless. But look, there was Chipoka Mulenga, the Minister of Commerce, and Industry, who's in Changa MP, at the height of this crisis of medical supplies and the withholding of $50 million, he called the US ambassadors Uriomusungwe to Shupa, issuing racist remarks. Now you have Suresh Desai calling the ambassadors evil. I think it's extremely very careless for this government in the mishandling of diplomatic relations. In fact, I remember that both President Michael Sata and President Edgar Lungu had to ban his ministers from commenting on matters that hinge on bilateral relations. Because here you have a board chair who is a part-time officer at Food Reserve Agency making very offensive remarks that can affect the bilateral relations between Zambia and the United States. I think that Chipoka Mulenga, who's a Minister of Commerce, called the U.S. ambassadors Uriomusungu ala Shupa in a derogatory manner. Umusungu tamishupe, umusungu wa mipele shwendalama. Why don't you raise your own money? Tax the mines. Widen the tax base. Then you will not bother who's telling you what to do. If you are not a beggar, you therefore have choice and you wear dignity. But if the US government is running your Ministry of Health and Ministry of Education departments, what do you expect? They will have a say in the matters and how you use that money. Currently, we have a perilous situation where ARVs, TB medicines and malaria are running out. Government keeps on saying that they will cover up the gap, that maybe China will step in. I laugh at all those things. Can we raise money properly? Can we quantify? For example, we know the US government raises $500 million a year for us. Can we demonstrate how we shall fill that gap than insulting them? Demonstrate how you will raise that $500 million a year to provide for ARVs. You have 1.2 million people of your people on ARVs. And TB medicine are some of the most expensive medicine, and they have to be taken for a period of 6 to 9 months. Malaria, you know that malaria is one of the highest killers, especially in our children, other than diarrheal diseases. So we literally have not an outbreak, but it's endemic, the malaria crisis that we have. So demonstrate as government that you can raise money before you disparage people that give you the money, that make you chew the money. So Suresh Desai's remarks, Chipoka Mulenga's remarks, Honorable Chipoka Mulenga's remarks were out of order, totally out of order. And we need both a reprimand and even an action from the president. For Suresh Desai, the American ambassador was speaking from an audit, because they always demand that their money be audited. So you just can't come and claim that no money was lost. And that, what about the overpricing? And isn't it folly that we exported our maize to Tanzania and we were forced to buy that maize back? Did we expect to buy it back at the same price? Of course not. We had sold it very cheaply, and the Tanzanians were not fools. They had to sell it at their own price. But the American ambassador is alleging that the price was overpriced and delivery was not in total. And he was speaking from the point that he had contributed $20 million to the disaster crisis, drought response process. So you can then not come and call him evil. So Suresh Desai, my uncle, he's my uncle. I know him very well. He's, like he says himself, he's a very distinguished man in our country. He saved our country as Minister of Agriculture. That is why those remarks are totally careless, and those remarks are regrettable. He should either apologize or resign. But Chipoka Mulenga didn't apologize or resign. So everyone is just taking a cue. It's a game they're playing at the expense of the life of ordinary people. There's been development in regard to the issues of the Constitution. The Law Association of Zambia were very clear. They've issued a very long statement rejecting Bill 7. They are saying this bill should be withdrawn immediately. Those are the remarks from the Law Association of Zambia. They think that, and I agree with them, that the bill should be withdrawn. And in their statement issued yesterday, the Law Association of Zambia has demanded that the Bill number 7 of 2025, which was published in the Government Gazette on 23rd May 2025, wherein government indicates that it is settled intention to introduce it on the floor of the National Assembly to reform the country's constitutional order. LAS has noted with concern that the initiated proposed constitutional amendment process excludes stakeholders and citizens from involvement. In fact, the proposed bill appears to have been published in the Gazette merely to note citizens' general information without establishing a pathway for meaningful participation prior to its submission to the National Assembly. LAS says that it has noted that there's disclosure of any information on the process of adopted in coming up with the content of the bill and the changes thereafter. I'm happy about His Royal Highness Chief Mpezeni the Fourth, who's been reigning on that throne for over 43 years. 44 is one of the longest serving Royal Highnesses in our country. He just told the Minister of Justice that you can't come here. You've made the laws already, then you come and purport to consult us. Why don't you, first of all, for example, engage the House of Chiefs, which is representative to all the royal establishment in the country? That was very brave of our Royal Highness in Chief Mpezeni, and I hope that there are other Royal Highnesses will emulate Mpezeni in rejecting this bill. Now, this bill, I think, has reached its end. NGOCC, remember, President Hakainde Hichilema is purporting that he wants representation of women in parliament. Well, a group that organizes, that speaks for women, has rejected this bill. The NGOCC has stated that the process is not protecting the content, that the process is not consultative, that the process is rushed. So although there is a number of 20 MPs that is proposed for the women in Zambia, NGOCC says, regrettably, we have to reject the process because the process is not accountable. The process might have hidden meanings. The process has not gathered stakeholders and built consensus. So NGOCC has rejected it. LAS has rejected it. Then we saw a flurry of rejections also from the church, the Catholic Church. 3 senior archbishops have spoken in a period of 7 days. The Zambia Conference of Catholic Bishops President, Archbishop Ignatius Chama, reiterated when this process started, he reiterated his earlier statement that the constitutional making process was not a priority. There was not enough time to build consensus. As you've seen, just in the last 1 month, despite heavy pushing by government, imposing this agenda using ZMBC and their echo chambers, the key stakeholders in our country, Law Association of Zambia, NGOCC, the youths, students, the church have rejected this process. This is a process, unfortunately, you can't rush. For example, they've rejected it. You are supposed to gather the stakeholders. Okay, Vane, how are we going to deal with this? And everyone is saying there's just no such time. We are supposed to go into the preparations of the elections. You have new voters cards to be issued. You have NRC issuance to be done. Why don't we channel the resources to public awareness to ensuring that that register is cleaned up and it gets as many of our citizens that are eligible to vote? Look at the 2021 elections. While about 8-9 million people were eligible to vote, only 3 million voted. Okay, 2.8 for Edgar, 1.8, under 4 million voted. Now, in a democracy, you're supposed to be ruled by the majority. So if 10 million people are eligible to vote and only 4 million vote and then speak for the 20 million, that voice is not inclusive. It is for this reason that stakeholders are asking government, can we prioritize what is important? And what is important today is the next year's elections. Can we mobilize enough resources for next year, for this election? Can we ensure that the issuance of NRC to bring in new voters who've come off the age of 18 are registered? And can we clean up the register? And then can we prepare to come and issue voters register? That is what our people are asking. That's what stakeholders are asking. So this decision to push on with a rejected process is just demonstrating the stubbornness of President Hakainde Hichilema. There's another matter. Our dear brother, NDC President Samoei Mboela, was on a podcast by my dear brother, and she should read these remarks, and I think I want to comment about this.
Conviction for defamation in the Clayson Hamasaka case. What lessons have you personally learned about the power and responsibility that comes with social media, especially when sharing unverified information?
To be honest with you, if you followed my case, the only thing I learned from that case is the fact that when people are in power, they abuse power.
People abuse power.
Exactly. It's as simple as that. I was insulted for months by the UPND media using blogs like Koswe and the Zambian Watchdog, which I know are run by the UPND. Clayson Hamasaka and I, by the way, were very good friends. Even the time that he himself was appearing in court under the PF, I used to escort him to court. Even the time they were announcing his judgment, we were there together. From the judgment and my drinks, the whole team which were there as UPND at that time. You get the point? So we were close like that. So even the time they started insulting me as a UPND media, I would actually screenshot those things and forward to him and say, what is going on? No, and things like that. You get the point?
So the pages that you're mentioning are run by the UPND?
They are run by the UPND, yeah. I know the people that run those pages. Somebody even came to testify during my court case. Somebody came to testify and said, in fact, the person who even recruited me to this page is Clayson Hamasaka. Those things are there on record in court. Okay? And if I should even mention the name, the person who came to testify was Wilson Pondamari. Okay? And then he said, we started the Zambian Watchdog, myself, Wilson Pondamari, Clayson Hamasaka, and Lloyd Himambo, he's now, I think, ambassador to Mozambique. And he said Himambo is the one that called me. I came in from Kabwe, and the person that I had to meet when I came to Lusaka was Clayson Hamasaka. And I was a member of the UPND, and I know even in terms when you write some articles and everything, I know who else to give the articles to. You get the point. So, anyway, to cut the long story short, when these two pages started attacking me, I knew who I should run to, and I went to Hamasaka and I said, you need to stop this. These people are insulting me. I'm a mother. Just because I'm a politician doesn't mean that people should insult me day in and day out. You get the point? So when those things could not really stop, I attacked back. When I attacked back, only 2 days they rushed to court. By the time the police were coming to get me, by the way, it was something whereby what I had written and what they had said, they were two different things. But my case, for me, also what you should be doing as a media is to also follow the cases, come to court and see what is really going on. Are you getting the point? For me, also, when that happened with Hamasaka, like I said, Hamasaka and I were friends. That is why even over this case, I've got no issues with him. It has nothing to do with him per se. It's the UPN.
Yeah, that matter is very important. Samoei Mboela, who's NDC leader, is disclosing what we've all been stating, that these rogue media organizations that are run by State House, now their content is so vile. They issue hate speech, they issue tribal statements, they scandalize members of the opposition, they scandalize bishops of the church, they run very defamatory content, highly explosive defamatory content. Alongside, President Hakainde Hichilema has been very insistent on issues of cyber law, shutting you and me down, saying he doesn't want careless comments, doesn't want tribal remarks, doesn't want hate speech in the cyberspace. Yet his own media, run under his nose, is the worst culprit. And for victims like myself, Fred Membe, or Archbishop Alik Banda and others, there is nothing you can do. Even when you report to the police, they cannot bring these culprits, who, like Savoy Imboela, are stated, are known, have been identified as administrators of this page from State House. But the police will never deal with them. And you can understand why. Would the Inspector General of Police call Clayson Amasaka or Brian Mwinga? Can Zicta investigate these? In fact, Zicta has previously investigated and established who the owners of these pages are. And do you think that they can be prosecuted? No. The laws that are created, they're created for us members of the opposition and the critics. They are not created for the people at State House. So there they are. The Zambia Conference of Catholic Bishops even put it in their pastoral letter. Mr. President, this guerrilla journalism, these rogue pages could have benefited you when you were in opposition. Unfortunately, you are now president and you swore to defend the Constitution. You swore to be president. You are a father of all Zambians. So how do you allow these rogue pages that scandalize citizens be under you? Why don't you allow the law to process this and close them down? You are quick to complain about Munyaule and others, but lead by example. What about your pages? So before you complain about why me, complain about Koswe. So I think that there hasn't been equitable application of the law. And we see this very often in other spaces. And that's not the debate for today. So today, I think my opening remarks were on Suresh Desai. I think he needs to apologize. Chipoka Mulenga also needs to apologize or resign for their very careless remarks against a U.S. ambassador. Lars, NGOCC, the church, have all come out full blazing and have rejected the process where the issue of the Constitution, there's just not enough time to build consensus. And the matters that have been proposed by government are not non-contentious as government is purporting them to be. The last matter on other issues is just this letter that has been released this evening by Father Felix Chifumbe from Mansa Diocese. He has announced that His Lordship Bishop Patrick Chilekwa Chisanga, who's a bishop of Mansa Diocese, has rejected 800,000 kwacha donated by President Hakainde Hichilema to Luwe Mission. Luwe Mission is currently is clocking 620 years since its formation. I don't know if I have their commemoration song here. I can't see it. I wanted to play it, but I'll play it later. So they are commemorating 120 years. Luwe Mission in Chifunabuli district is commemorating 120 years since its founding. So there was a dinner that was held in Samfya, graced by the Minister of Livestock, Peter Kapala, Engineer Peter Kapala, in where he announced that President Hakainde Hichilema donated an amount of 800,000 kwacha, cattle, and 200 bags of mealie meal. The Diocese of Mansa, the Mansa Diocese, where Chifunabuli falls under, has rejected this donation from the president. They have spelled out the reasons. Key reasons are that, first of all, this process was highly politicized. and they were complained by other parishioners. I think they said it had become a UPND affair. So the bishop did not sanction it. He said, can we arrange and organize this matter in a proper, non-partisan affair? It's one of the reasons they've used to reject the 800,000 kwacha. But the big issue for me is a disclosure of assets, business interests, and liabilities by the president. We should know where he has pecuniary advantage. The president says he gets a 53,000 kwacha, which he has donated to poor people, and all his allowances are donated to poor people. He says he exited business interest in 2019. Name which company he owns. He says he doesn't own any, and he runs his farms. So people are asking, okay, you are buying new farms, you are putting center pivots, you are doing all these things on your farm. On your farms, not farms. Where is the money coming from, Mr. President? You are saying you are wealthy. Can we see the law, Article 261 and 263 of the Republican Constitution, requires that all public officials disclose their assets, liabilities, and interest. This process should be done at the beginning, annually, and at exit. There's an argument by the UPND that always say, no. He declared the assets to ECZ. But if you look and read the letter of the law, there is supposed to be annual disclosure of assets. I think the purpose of the law is also just to track in case you are taking pecuniary advantage of your office and you are accumulating wealth that way. So it's just not enough to have declared assets in 2021. You ought to declare them again and again. Those were the 4 issues that are opened with. Let's go to our main subject. And our main subject is Parliament. The proposal in this draft bill is proposing to increase the number of parliamentary seats, in my estimation, to jump to 265 from the current 165. You are aware that 156 members of parliament are elected directly. Then 8 are nominated by the president. Then you have the 3, who's a speaker, and the 2 deputies that are also nominated and elected by parliament. So you have a 165 member parliament. This member parliament, there is now a proposal by the draft constitution that we increase it by 12 youths, that we increase it by 3 persons with disabilities, and that we increase it by 20 women, and that from the delimitation report of 2019, there's a proposal that some constituencies be divided, and there's a proposal to increase by another 55 seats. So if you add, this is about, and then 2 nominated MPs more than from the 8 to 10. If you look at this, that's already 100 that will be added to the 165. So Parliament will grow to 265. Now, of worry is the state of the economy. First of all, you have debt that is rising rapidly. Musokotwane, our Minister of Finance, has borrowed over $3.4 billion in foreign debt just under this period from 2021 to 2024. His president in opposition had promised that there will be a moratorium and that he will restructure the debt and that he will not borrow any more money until the debt is liquidated or brought in. But he hasn't. The debt restructuring process itself has not been successful. They say it's successful, but look, if you look at the debt servicing interest we are paying, literally there's not much difference. And what they've just managed is to push the debt of repayment from 2026 to 2027 for the Euro bonds, and they've pushed it to between 2032 and 2048. They didn't manage to get any debt cancellation or any debt forgiveness, and even the debt servicing arrangement, I think, have not been proper, because if you look at the statements from Secretary to Cabinet and how much we are paying in debt service, it remains huge amounts, almost $500 million is what we are paying in debt service. So the issue of debt service and debt restructuring being a success is neither here nor there. Further, another $3 billion has not been restructured, and it has stalled the entire process because they've said, okay, you've done these agreements with some of the large creditors, but you have not dealt with this $3 billion to commercial creditors, and they've asked the minister to ensure that that process is completed before they can give them another fresh loan that, by the way, Msokotwane is asking for, of $1.5 billion. So that's the state of the economy. Number one, the debt is rising, inflation is rising. It might go down a bit because we have a good harvest, so food prices might come down, which have been the biggest driver. But the biggest driver to all this have been the issue of the exchange rate, which makes fuel prices go very expensively, even if fuel prices have been low on the international market. But that component of the volatile exchange rate has not helped. So you've had an economy that's burning, literally burning, the cost of living crisis, one of the worst in living memory. Prices jumped double, treble, quadruple. Milimi was between 90 kwacha and 120 kwacha. It jumped to 350, 400 kwacha. The price of everything, including electricity, fuel, cooking oil, sugar, everything just doubled and trebled. So we are experiencing one of the worst cost of living crises in recent memory. You have what we call legacy issues. These are issues of poverty. Remember, we've become now the 6th poorest country in the world. We are among the most unequal countries in the world. While there are a few rich people enjoying the crisis in the economy, the bulk of our people remain poor, and the gap between the rich and the poor has accelerated wide apart, providing social and security concerns. The unemployment rate, especially for our young people, you cannot have an entire adult population unemployed. Even when you look at the categories of employment, they say our employment is good around 35%. That's not true, because if you look at the breakdown, they're counting maids, they're counting agriculture jobs that are seasonal, they're counting these jobs that have no security, have no attendant benefits like pension benefits, insurance benefits. They are not secure. There's no dignity to most of the jobs they're counting. So in effect, you have almost an entire adult population unemployed. Because if you look at the people that are in formal employment, that works for banks, insurance firms, mining, and civil servants, is under 1 million people. While you have an adult population ready to work at the age of number of 10 million. They are not in school, they are not employed, they have no meaningful activity. That is a hotbed you are sitting on. It's a powder keg, it's a bomb. So we have these legacy issues. Then government wants to expand our parliament by another 100 MPs. I'm inviting you to contribute. The number is 0973078082. The number is on the screen. Make your contribution to any of the matters we've discussed. But today, we are discussing this matter of the proposed expansion of parliament. Government has proposed in its draft constitution, which has been rejected by all key stakeholders. All keys, in fact, everyone that rejected Bill 10 in 2019 and 2020 has rejected Bill 7. Everyone except UPND. It's only UPND that has changed its position. The view of the church, view of LAS, view of NGOCC, view of many stakeholders remain the same. The utter rejection, including Laura Meet, who's their best friend, she's also rejected the Bill 7. So if you look at the provisions, they've been rejected then and they're still rejected. For now, they are saying there's just no time to build consensus over the proposed amendments. So I want you to call and participate over government's role of expanding parliament. There have been careless remarks by Suresh Desai and Chipoka Mlenga. I think that they should resign for their remarks. Chifunabuli crisis, where Lubwe Mission is celebrating 120 years and held a fundraiser where President Hakainde Hichilema proposed to contribute 800,000 kwacha. Vakana vakuchechi wemwamenda mashirefu makwitu walimona kumonze walishita donate 1.9 million kwacha. Shirefu makwitu endalama. Why don't you start by declaring your assets? That will help us if we know where your money is coming from. You just can't hide in the angle that you are a wealthy man. No. How are you making your money? They want to know. Because there are these strong allegations of corruption. What's happening to the mining sector, agricultural sector, and other sectors where the hands of State House are heavily dipped in. So stakeholders like the church, you know, ngawaisa kunganda na ushitachi biscuit chikalamba. You just can't say the neighbors have given me. They said, no. It's some more yamtengo sana. Especially if it is a girl child that has brought a large asset or parcel at home. The parents would even frog match that child to wherever that parcel has come from. This is what the Catholic Church in Lubwe Mission in Mansa are asking the president. Ishindalama mule ponya 1.9 million kudokas rally, kuisoko another 1 million kuriwa kanishas. You say you build new dormitories. Indalama shiref makui. Genuine question. So let's listen to Suresh Desai as I wait for your contribution on expanded parliament. Is it necessary? Will the economy afford it? Will it change it? And I'll come with a solution to that parliament. I'll come and speak to our solution to that parliament as proposed in projects 2026 and beyond.
It's very bad what they were doing. And moreover, they were Zambians sweating under the sun, moving that maize. It was coming in at a furious pace. There was 1 month when we moved 30,000 tons. It's the management and the staff of the Food Reserve Agency should be thanked for it, instead of being viewed as people who are chomping money. Allah. So this is why I said that some evil minds. And we are very happy to report that now only 10,000 tons are left. And the maize is moving. Yeah. I think this month it will be over. Yes. About the price, you know, when you are literally begging, can you argue about the price? That is not a price which was set by anyone in Zambia. It was not a Zambian who set that price. That price was set by the Tanzanians. They said, if you want maize from us, this is the price.
It was actually government to government.
Yes, government to government. That's the price they chose to charge us. What do we do? When we look at the hunger, when we do the figures, what is the maize, what do you call it? Yes, but the computation that we do, the food balance sheet. We look at the national requirement and we look at the maize that we have availability. We realize that we are heading for a shortage. What do? We agree. Sorry, twapenga basa. Twazumina. But this is why we took a decision to empower the farmers, so that never again should we have to go and beg to other people to bail us out. Let us empower our own farmers to grow more. Let us strengthen the Food Reserve Agency so it has the capacity to store enough food that if 1 year the rain does not fall, kunyina magani, we have maize to last a whole year. This is where we want to be.
Thank you very much. That's Suresh Desai. In my view, my uncle should resign for those remarks and terming the U.S. ambassador as evil. That was totally careless for a man in his position, and the man with immense experience is a former minister and former MP, I think, for Mazabuka, if I remember correctly. Is it Monze or Mazabuka? But Suresh Desai is a well-known Zambian distinguished. And for him to have issued the remarks he issued, I think they were totally careless. In the moment, he called the U.S. ambassador as evil. He ought to apologize. The proposal that we have in Project 2026 is very clear. In fact, you need to reduce parliament to the number of districts. What you need to expand are numbers of districts than numbers of constituencies. This is because development will be used through the decentralization and devolution process, will allow the mayor who's elected with his councillors to function properly in the chamber. The councillor will be full-time. The councillor will, our people on the ground will feel the proper presence of our representatives, who should be the councillors, the mayor. And then the town clerk or council secretary must run. That's why you have to put up fully fledged engineering department, planning department, health department at the district council. Then they plan for the development of that area. The money should go not to CDF, it should go to the district. That is a proposal. So that you allow our MPs to be what they were designed for, as lawmakers. That's why Tuvetilati, they are lawmakers. They were pangamafundi. That is their role. But we want an MP to promise that he will build a road, he will build a bridge, that he will build a school, he will build a hospital, he will build a dam. MPs, that's not their role. We should be very clear. Over the years, we've gotten things totally mixed up. If you look at chambers that are here in the US, whether they're bicameral or unicameral, is that you have representatives you send to the capital. Then you have your own parliament you run at local level who deliver development to you. They have laws they make, and the budgets they raise, and their fiscal and proper infrastructure to deliver development to you. That's how it should be. Our MP, that's why even now, we are totally unfair on our MPs. We say they haven't delivered. That's why it's difficult for an MP to survive every term. You have few people like Jack Mwimbu that have been there for 25 years or Gary Nkombo for 20 years. Those are very few. Not necessarily that they deliver. Yes, they could deliver, but there are other factors. Issues of incumbency, issues of stronghold allow them to be in those positions. But an MP is difficult because he spends 9 months at Parliament. 9 months, if you've seen the 3 adjournments in the year. When does it deliver to you? But we want the MP to attend funerals, to attend burials, to pay your school fees, to then bring development to your area. That's not the role of the MP. We need to redesign the role of the MP. The MP should go to Lusaka to make laws. Of course, be your representative. And when you recognize that role, you realize that, in fact, we don't need more MPs. We actually need fewer. It is at a local level where we need that council when they are in session, where you need to give it experts, the town clerk, and the set of engineers, where now you deploy resources for them to budget, plan, and deliver development to that area. There'll be huge capital projects like a huge hospital or university or huge interstate road that you need to build that the state will come in. But for development initiatives, whether you are doing township roads, you are doing water and sewerage and water reticulation where you are doing schools, where you are helping build dams, that should be done at the local area. And your duty as central government, when the local government plan is to fund them fully, your role is to give them capacity, that they've experts in procurement, that they've proper directors of finance and the money will not be stolen, that there'll be fiscal discipline, and that there's planners led by a proper qualified planner who plan for the districts, from the street lights to water reticulation, sewerage, to where the farms, housing and plots should be. This is that way our people will not even feel for a moment. They will not even miss the MP. They will look for the MP if there is a big issue regarding the law, regarding maybe delays, from Ministry of Lands. And that's why we've called for the government services to be brought to where the people are. Let's capacitate these district councils. Let's ensure that they can issue a driver's license. They can issue a passport. They can issue your title of land. People don't have to travel to the provincial center or Lusaka. Give them capacity. That's a purpose of devolution. That's a purpose of decentralization. That's a purpose of taking both power and resources from the center to the periphery. CDF, I've always emphasized, it is not development. CDF is a small component in the decentralization policy. We've even proposed that, for example, ZESCO should alienate its distribution network to councils. Councils should bring power, water to your house. And councils should collect that tariff, and they pay back to ZESCO. And you make the system very accountable. This is not new. Check Singapore, check China, check Japan, check South Africa. It's local government that brings development. If tulilalilana to MP, yo ba MP tabamoneka, tetibamoneke, you can't have an MP, representing vast areas, sometimes representing 100,000, and each member of constituent want to see that MP. The people you should concentrate on should be your councillors. That's why even the delimitation process should concentrate more. It should not result in necessarily new constituencies. No, you just realign the boundaries. For example, between Katuba and Mandevu, you know that Chipata compound and other have grown so much, and they need to belong to Katuba. That is the purpose of the delimitation process. When it does the census, then you look at the electoral boundaries, then you say, the number in Mandevu is so big that there's been a spillover in Kabanana, and we think that they should belong to Katuba constituents. Then you alienate the electoral boundaries like that without creating a new constituency. But we have upside down of everything in our country. We think that we should create more constituencies for our people to be represented. No. There is already a process underway. We are already sending capacity and financial resources to our local government. Let's support those mechanisms. Let's build capacity in those areas. Let's take development to the local area. Our people will not miss the MP because they will remember our MP te upange misebo au mwilamu bepesha ena wa mafunde MP wesu ari yakulusaka mukupanga mafunde ya chalo, to look at our peace and security and to look at our laws and what is required, and to ensure that the budget allocated is properly distributed and that funds allocated to our district, the MP will pursue. So if you look at that model, you might not even advocate for more MPs. You might actually advocate for less MPs and more districts, so that then our people can be properly represented and development can then reach our people. Okay, the lines are open. The number to call is 0973 078082. Let's hear your contribution to that. The U.S. ambassador is being called names. his job has always been to deliver to our country. They bring over $500 million every year. They contributed $20 million to the disaster response in light of the drought that we had. They withdrawn $50 million in light of the abuse of resources at the Ministry of Health. And now Suresh Desai, who's the chairperson of FRA, has decided to call the ambassador names. Okay. Hastings Hamaundu says, Ambassador, why didn't you bring those ideas under your reign? Well, I've always answered this. That's why I've advocated, I've aspired to be president of our country, because of brilliant ideas that I was not president, I couldn't implement them. I can propose, like I'm proposing to this government. But if they don't implement them, if they just think about the elections, if they are preoccupied with stealing, what do? You and I have a duty that we push these ideas and we stop the mediocre debate. Can we discuss solutions for our country? Why are we quick to debate who has a large nose, who has a large forehead, who's tall, who's short? Why can't we discuss ideas that will bring development to our country? Why can't we discuss ideas that are generational in nature? Why can't we bother to preoccupy ourselves with refining ideas that will leapfrog the development of our country? We are, like this Hastings Amaundu, too preoccupied with personal attacks and personal affiliations. This Francis Mwenya says, Ambassador, the ideas are good, but implement them because you are in government. Oh, but Francis Mwenya thinks I'm in government. Thank you very much. Okay. John Njebe says, very brilliant idea, especially your proposal that title deeds, driver's license and passports and company registration should go to every district. Mr. John Njebe, you should be my Minister of Local Government so that you can implement this. This is what we are advocating. That you know why we have a broken system? Our people don't feel government. They don't see government because government is not where they are. And then when they have to interact with government, it's such a nightmare. Whatever service they want is mad in bureaucracy, bottlenecks, and corruption. This is a system we have to streamline. And like John Njebe says, yes, title deeds, driver's license, passport, company registration, and car registration, take them to districts. That's what other governments do. I agree with you. People will not miss the MP. They will remember that the MP's role is to represent you in parliament, not necessarily to bring development and government service to your area. There are other tested and tried mechanisms. The devolution and decentralization mechanisms can deliver development to our people. Comrade Mwamba, on the screen number you've put is saying it's not going through. Oh, let me check. Did we mistype this number? Just let me check. It's saying we can't go through the number on the screen. Let me just check again in case I mistyped it. So it's 0973 07 8082. No, my brother, it's a correct number. I hope Airtel hasn't blocked it, but it's a correct number. You can reach it, you can send a voice note. It's a correct number. 0973 07 8082. I've got the first caller. Good evening. Please tell us your name and where you are calling us from.
Good evening, Ambassador.
Wamabo. You're my first caller.
I'm the first caller.
Congratulations. Please make your contributions.
Interesting. I hope you are well, Ambassador.
The Lord is blessing us. Thank you very much.
Surely. I was talking to here we have you know Don Oscar.
Yes.
Pombo.
Mkwai.
He has been in Spain for the past few days.
Mm-hmm.
And it's because he went for a wedding. His brother's son was getting married, and his brother was also here with his wife.
Mm-hmm.
Then today they went. Today we received the news that when they got back to Zambia, this brother to Don Oscar, from the airport to going back to the Copperbelt, they had a road traffic accident, and he lost his life.
My God, the man he was with in Spain.
Yes, the father too.
Yeah, the brother. Who else died in the accident?
According to the information they gave me, two other people. The wife to the brother to Danoska is at the hospital.
Oh my God. I'll call him. My condolences, my deepest condolences. No, he's been showing us all the pictures when they were in Spain for that wedding, and to hear that, oh my God. I'm so sorry. I'll call Father Mwansa Pombo. I'll call him Father Donosco.
I would be grateful.
Thank you. My condolences to you, because these are your members, and my condolences to you and your fraternity in Italy.
Thank you, Ambassador. Thank you. For some reason, he was always just in touch. He was asking me to notify the community that he was going to Spain, and I encouraged him to do it by himself because he's a senior community member. But then we didn't go through. I am a WhatsApp group chats where we communicate with our members, you know. Because I think you know, for whoever the Zambian mission in Italy is also in charge of, I think, Malta, Greece, and Austria.
Yes, correct.
Yes, so the Zambians in like Austria also have a group chat. We consider them our people.
Thank you.
Talking of my WhatsApp group, Ambassador, I was talking also in another WhatsApp group of my friends who we went to high school with, that in Zambia, they can't even afford to. Because they were complaining about the internet, and they can't do. I was suggesting Kadongo Filia, like I was saying, when I worked at Chirundu, we used to have Kadongo, Kazamtel, Airtel. It's easier. How they have complained him, and your 300 kwacha or 500 kwacha alafu makuisa to buy data in the Kadongo. I thought the government is working very hard to make it easier for you guys to make money. And now I'm not positive if your constitution, nama parliament issues. In my contribution, my understanding, Ambassador, I think it goes even way back. I don't think the Anglo-Saxons, the Anglophone world, more Africa, we don't understand that system. Just like the Francophone guys don't understand that system. It seems the only people in Africa who understand that their system is Arabs, North Africa. Because the parliament, how it was designed, I think it was designed for Cecil Rhodes and his people. Yeah. That's why I heard people misunderstanding. They're saying, Ambassador, you were in government. Yeah. Why didn't you do all these things? You see the misunderstanding and the disconnection between the government and the people and the role the government plays. They don't know you are in diplomacy and there's diplomatic etiquette. Yeah. And this is like Ministry of Foreign Affairs and the relationship our country has with other countries. And there are also other treaties that have been signed. And there are also those issues to do with the where you belong, where you diplomacy. Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Which part of government is in charge? We have Ministry of Local Government. We also have the Parliament, we have the Judiciary, we have the Executive. But it seems our people don't understand this because this doesn't belong to us. No. It doesn't. We don't even have a trustees ambassador in Zambia. Remember, I told you in China, the population, the ordinary Chinese, they vote for members of the standing committee of the Communist Party of China.
Yeah, yeah.
Then those
there's fully fledged democracy at lower level.
Yes, they have all the ambassadors. Not if the Western world wants to portray it, people should know that you are voting a democracy. Because it could have been chaotic. So for them, the standing committee, then, who have been elected by the population from each province, each especially among autonomous regions, then they vote for. But the members, 7 of them are members of the Politburo.
Yes, yes.
Those are elected also, I think, after 5 years or 6. And usually they are the same people. Even ambassador, they know things, those people. They know extensively world history. They know the history of science, the history of technology, the history of their own country, dynasties, just like Emmanuel Mwamba. So people like you, ambassador, people like Valaura Meet and other bandits we have, they should be only committee about it. It's just maybe of 10 people who don't change anyhow. These are the people, every government that comes in, they run to for guidance.
Yeah, yeah.
But if we look at the parliamentarians, I don't think that, I guess we're more members of parliament in Zambia, they are role in the government. That's why even our people, they think member of parliament, they will create a development. How is it even possible to think like that? Because you need legislation in charge of making laws. The wisdom behind it is that if you come from northern province, you come from southern province, eastern province, you understand how much challenges here in that place. So to help the judiciary and the legislature make laws that will be in favor and for the good of where you come from. That's why they debate. Say, southern province, we need to reason. If our population is mining, how do we create come to a compromise where we can create a balance between these two? They should be debating. The local government. Like you see, like what has happened to my electric vehicles in China.
Yes, yes.
So what the Chinese does, the Chinese government, they give locals, businessmen, maybe in one region, to compete. They will start competing among different companies and see which one. And because of this, they do their best. Local level, we don't even understand. I think needs to have a district commissioner, the council, and their members, because how big a district
yes. Yeah.
If we can go back, it's because there's no love for the nation. The love which is there is for survival. You don't even understand things. So, Ambassador, I think we should start advocating for a system that works for us. We understand ourselves, not if you have a swing. That system worked for the Anglo-Saxons, the Anglophone world. It has worked for the UK. Look at there are even like a job. They sometimes, 1 year, about them prime ministers for.
But
they're a developed nation.
Yes. Yes.
Yes. Look at the developed nations. Let's say, let me say maybe Russia, China, and maybe US. Our top leaders, they are not there flaunting their wealth. It's not about that money I have. Peace, must stand like then when your people, the World Bank is saying, the poverty line in these countries, most of the people live below the poverty line. But then you are flaunting.
Yeah.
So in as much as these things are happening, since we're talking about parliamentarians and increasing numbers, ambassador, now increasing the reason behind you already know very well. Zambians, they know very well.
Yeah.
It's not because because we want to develop to make our lives better. It's all about sustenance. We know this. Sustenance, so that the legislature doesn't have true independence.
Yo, Natasha Bamabo, my deepest condolences to, Father Donosco for that sad loss after such a joyous occasion, attending a wedding in Spain. The family had traveled all the way from Zambia, and while they are going back to, to the Copper Belt where they live, they're involved in such an accident, and we've lost his brother. My deepest condolences. After this program, I also call him just to wish him such a tragic loss.
It's a tragedy. Thank you so much, Ambassador Mwamba Verified, because imagine the gentleman who just got married.
Yeah.
And now he has to go to Zambia.
For the funeral, can you imagine?
It's just so sad, but I'm trying not to be too sad because Zambia itself as a nation is already making me very sad every day.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ambassador.
Thank you. Yeah, the two issues that my dear brother Mabo, who's president of the Zambians in Italy, has raised. First, the state of our country. If you see at a request that come every day for people looking for help, like 10,000, 20,000, it's just 300 kwacha, 200 kwacha. We have an entire nation in crisis. Then you have on the other side the few people under UPND that are spending large sums, dropping money just like that, instead of attending to the state of our economy. We don't have to bring our people to such indignity. Then he's brought about an issue of parliamentarians who, many times have to dip in their pockets. I remember a famous case of Dr. Charles Romeo Banda, Dr. Charles Romeo Banda, Sinda MP, who was our Minister of Local Government, and he was also our Minister of Tourism. Sorry, this was public, so I'm not in any way embarrassing the doctor. So Dr. Banda confessed that he had to sell a vehicle the first time he went to Parliament, because I think his last session in Parliament was his second time. But the first time he went to Parliament, he promised that he was going to build a bridge that connected two villages. And there was no help from CDF, from the council, or from government. He sold his own van to then build that bridge. Many members of Parliament spend a lot of money. They pay so many to so many families, schools. They pay. They literally bury the dead in their constituency. Some have even bought hearse, Katenga Madilo, just because the frequency of the request for help is so much that MPs dip in their pockets, they sacrifice their allowances. Why? Because we've misunderstood the role of the MP. The MP is a legislator. The MP is a lawmaker. Can we reform the system so that our MPs are merely that? And when you recognize that, you might actually find that we need not to increase, but to reduce, so that maybe every district sends one MP to Parliament to Lusaka. And remember, they are in Lusaka up to 9 months. So in the current structure, it's broken, nothing works. If your MP is in Lusaka for 9 months out of 12 months, when does it work for you? It's just not possible. Even when they have an office back home that has been opened, the officer will just be collecting the issues, but they can be dealt with immediately. We've overburdened, overstretched our members of Parliament. That's why in this lopsided thinking, we think that we should delimitate and increase the number of MPs. Let us develop the local government system. Let's give money to the mayor, council chairperson, and his council. Let's empower the technocrats that they are fully fledged departments of engineering, health, planning, to plan for development in that district. Then give them money. Not CDF, give the money to the district. you will see wonders. And this is what developed countries have done, from Japan, South Korea, Malaysia, even the US. They've federated, devolved structures that deliver development to you. Not the approach we've taken. It can't deliver development at all. A lot of people are sending messages that they're having difficulties in Zambia. I think because we know when we have no power, then the cell sites don't work. When the cell sites don't work, our people can't go through. Good evening. Please tell us your name and where you are calling us from.
Good evening.
Mr. My dear brother, please speak up. Yeah, hello?
Are you able to get me?
Yes, I'm able to get you now. Make your contributions. Your name and where you are calling us from.
You are talking to Brian, and I'm calling you from within Lusaka.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. Make your contributions.
Okay, so I have very few words to contribute. First of all, I just want to commend the work that you're doing in speaking for the people. I know it's not easy, especially when dealing with a government that doesn't listen, because then you have to keep talking about the same things over and over again. Hopefully, they get to a point where they realize that in order for them to develop this country, they need input from everybody.
Yeah.
That is the only way things are going to work, especially that most of them, this is when they tested government, and there's a lot that they can learn from leaders that were there before. They came into power. I followed keenly, especially on the part where you were breaking down on the need for them to for decentralization, and I just wanted to speak to that, because seeing the challenges that people go through. I can cite an example. If you want to get a driver's license, just here in Lusaka, go as early as to go and line up. Ridgeway there. Even at 04, if you are not lucky, you won't even get into a class.
Yeah.
So you find that a lot of people that want to get services like that, they end up just giving up and not pursuing. So if the government can focus not just on the CTF that are given to parliamentarians, but to understand what this decentralization is and what it can do for people, then they should be willing to listen to people like yourselves, so that they are able to implement this on a larger scale, that people will begin to benefit. Because most of what we see even now, we find officers taking advantage. Even the corruption that is at RATSA is because of the way things have been crafted. Because people can stand those queues, they would rather pay somebody to get their way. Now we end up having people that have driver's license, they don't even know what the rules are, accidents and everything. So government really needs to sit down and do this. And I always said the world is evolving. In this digital age that we are in, I don't see why you should bloat the number of MPs in the name of enhancing representation. This is the digital age that we are in. If anything, they should leverage the technology that is there to see how people can better be represented. Even the cries that people are making on the constitution. Imagine in today's world with the technology that is there, it's not very difficult for them to hear what people want to submit to the constitution. I can say that it was difficult in the Mwanawasa era, or even the UNIP era, because there was no social media. It was difficult to get to people. But now people have communicated and they've told them we want consensus on the issue of the constitution. The more they insist to take their own path, the more they delay the whole process. It will benefit them to listen now and say, okay, let's go back to the drawing board. Because the more they keep pushing this agenda that they should enact this constitution, of which all the stakeholders have come and said, we have rejected the process. We cannot begin to talk about the content when the process is not satisfying to us. The best that they could is to hold on to say, okay, let's go back to the drawing board. Even if the process that's now, it can cross even into after 2026, because government is a continuous process. Even if they don't make it into next year's term, the government that will come will pick up the process from wherever they'll leave it. But this insistence for them to just do it and conclude before 2026 is what is making people think, no, there must be something that they want to pass, which is not for the interest of their colleagues, you know. And it's very good because the PF, for example, they have the majority of MPs in the National Assembly. So why wouldn't you want them on the table where this matter is concerned? You know, you just insist that no, because we want to amend the this is what we should go. But there are stakeholders. Political parties agree. Everybody else must agree, and that is the only way we can proceed. So it's really sad to see how these people are governing this country. I hope that they learn from the mistakes they are making and begin to do things better. Those are my suggestions.
Thank you very much, Bran. Thank you very much. Bran is right. It is for this reason that all key stakeholders in our country have rejected the constitutional making process. They are saying there is not enough time to build consensus on the proposed amendments, and you can't rush them. You have an election coming up next year. That is where the focus should be. NRC issuance that is transparent, it's supported, that you ensure as many people come on the voters register as possible, that you begin to make investment in next year's election, not the constitutional making process. LAS have been the latest to reject the bill, and they've asked President Hakainde Hichilema to withdraw this bill. It was gazetted recently on 23rd May. They've been requested that this bill be rejected immediately. NGOCC, that had supported the bill. Remember what government is saying. Is saying the need to amend this constitution is to provide for women and young people's participation. Well, NGOCC, which is a custodian of women's voices in our country, have rejected Bill 7. NGOCC is stating that there is not enough time to consult on the various proposed amendments, and further, the process doesn't protect the content. There is no legal framework to support this constitutional making process. Like we saw in Bill 10, there was a legal mechanism taking you to constitutional amendments, and they were provided for infrastructure and structure for consultation that were in the law. But in this one, it's just mere statements and mere gazettation, no framework, no legal mechanisms to protect content. The process is everything. You can't ignore the process. You can't say the proposal is very good. I was laughing at my dear brother, Thomas Palo Bikilon, who was saying, look, maybe we have to support this process because it's going to stop by-elections. No, my brother Thomas Palo. No matter how sweetening the proposals are, do not fall for it. The process is marred in scandal already. The process is not inclusive. Like the Catholic Church is stating that you need to be inclusive in your approach. And the process doesn't need to be driven by President Hakainde Hichilema or by Princess Kasune or by Maximue, which we have seen. This process is being led by the UPND. A constitution-making process must be led by the people and stakeholders or their representatives. It can be led by the ruling party. I think that's the issue. And we have a marvel approach to all this, is that I think the solution, if you look at Singapore, you look at China, South Korea, you look at Vietnam, you look at India, I think the way to go is to empower the, let's take this call. My dear brother, good evening, and tell us your name and where you are calling us from.
Good evening, Mr. Emmanuel Mwamba. This is Njebe John.
Mr. Njebe John, you should be my Minister of Local Government. I saw your post down there. You have articulated very well. You've agreed with me that government services, government services should go to the people. Yeah, please make your contributions.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. First of all, I have to start with our natural resources, especially on copper, gold, diamond, and others. Even if you today, Mr. President, you go to Kawata Primary School, you ask the children, have you seen the copper? They will say no. What we need to do is that we need to use our resources accordingly. We need to have warehouses for each province to have storage for the copper, storage for the diamond, storage for all the minerals we have in Zambia. That will be the first thing I will advise you. We don't have, even if today we say, where is our copper? Where are we going to show it? We don't have it. Go to Kasama, go to Solwezi. There is no warehouse for the copper. But we're exporting copper. Our friends are storing copper. Do you know that South Africa has got copper which we have transported, which they can use in the next 400 years ago? That's South Africa. Now go to UK. They have got our copper, but us in our country, we don't have our copper. In our country, just in Lusaka, just find out where we can find our copper. For me, I would start advocating that we start selling our minerals locally, so that the Bank of Zambia can be full of dollars. That's the most important. Then coming to the local authority, as you have already articulated, we don't need the number of MPs which they are trying to increase. No. We need to decentralize. Councillors must be empowered. Councillors must be on the full salaries, so that those councillors now they'll be supervising the works in the local authority. That's in the district, in the wards, in the constituencies. MPs, as you have put it, they are supposed to make laws. They are not supposed to supervise. No, they are not supervise the projects. No. It's not their job. The Ward Development Committee must be empowered. The Constituent Development Committee must be empowered. You know, in China, the way it is, in China, all the money raises in the province remains in the province. What goes in the central government is what has been left out. For example, we have got Solwezi, which is doing fine in the minerals. So all the monies which they are collecting from Solwezi must remain in Solwezi, and Solwezi must make a budget. That is Northwestern Province. They must make a budget for themselves to say, this is what we have collected as a province. Let's make a budget, and once they make a budget, the little they remain, that's what goes in the central government. Now here it's vice versa. It's like a father who is eating a lot. Now that's the point. So the central government, the way it's supposed to function, is supposed to receive whatever is remaining from the local government. The local government must be a key pilot engineering of all the projects. That's what I'm saying. Driving licenses, ZESCO, okay? Driving licenses, ZESCO, all these things you call like the passports. Everything must go to the local authorities. They have to go to the councils. And by going to the council, we employ more people because it has to go on the grassroots. That's how you are supposed to run the government. That's why in China, any minister or any representative who is performing well from each province is the one who becomes a president. Because each province has got resources. This time we are supposed to be thinking of, let's have warehouses for the copper in Kasama, for the copper in Wapula, for the copper in Northwestern Province, Chipata, and they can even use that resources to borrow even in the central government to say, give us the money, we want to do this. These are our minerals which you have given us, or which we have bought. Then we use those minerals to develop the country. As long as we don't go on the ground and try to work with the people on the ground, there's nothing we are going to achieve. That's why Mpeza yesterday said, you can't climb the tree on top, come and then manjo wakambatia in an abuela. It's like mwana, apola mimba, then abuela timfuna kwatiriwa. No, there's a process whereby you start from the grassroots to say, no, there's Politan Salamu and what have you. So people must understand what is the devolution of governance. Devolution of government, you have to start from the grassroots. That's why when you become as a president, put me as the minister of local government, you see how I will change things. You see how people
wonderful, Mr. Yeah, wonderful, Mr.
I've got
Njeme.
ideas which I cannot even mention here, but I just look at some. I have been in this ministry, some directors, some PSs who are there, they don't know anything. They can't know anything. What they know, in my backup, they knock off.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Mr. Njeme from, yeah.
Health must be worked with, because you can't go as a doctor in the rural area. You don't know where is this disease coming from. Is the chief, is the village headman who is still Kuno Manzi, because that's why people are suffering from this. You need to start from the grassroots. I think I've said, we need decentralization, we need increasing number of MP. It has nothing to do with that. What is important is the local authority. That's a key, most important point. I end up here because there are other people who are supposed to
who are calling.
What are the Ratsa doing, people? When somebody alikuwa for driving license, what is the Ratsa doing in Lusaka? And somebody comes in Lusaka bashing Mukai, they say he doesn't know how to drive. But he doesn't know how to drive because you people who are supposed to teach people not to drive, you are here. Why can't you follow me there and teach him? Because there are no resources to come to Lusaka.
Yeah.
I've seen a situation whereby wakambati achoka kumuzisha azi wakuyenza mkairo, then let's say that part. But it's like, you are the supervisor, you follow, you want somebody to learn in Lusaka when you have not taught him in the rural area. We are waiting for your governance. Time will come for us to do perfectly.
Thank you very much. Mr. Njeme is calling for government to build copper reserves. I'm glad that there was an announcement that Bank of Zambia gold reserve locally bought through ZCMIH has risen to about $263 million. That is commendable. That's what we want. Mr. Njeme here is calling for copper reserves, that we build copper reserves as a backup and support to our national currency. And he's right, because our copper here is already sold. Go to the mines. They already have contracts. Our copper is sold for 3 to 5 years. It's sold in advance before it's even mined. And even if you went to the copper belt and you're looking for copper, they'll tell you it's not available because all the copper that is in our country is already contracted out. So John Njeme is calling for a build-up of reserves, that we should have copper reserves probably stored in every provincial centers. And that should go for other resources. I like that. But I like the idea that is resonating, that we should take the issuance of driver's license, passport, titles of land, and everything to the district. We should empower the district to do that. If RATSA has to open an office at Civic Center in every province or every district. That's why, many people were shocked at the rapid nature in which Mr. Sata brought development to our country. He understood the country and he was troubled that these ideas were not being implemented. That is why when Mr. Sata came, he jumped the number of districts. People had never thought about it. From 72 to 116 in a space period of almost just 3 years. Because if you look at our national budget, we don't fund constituencies, we fund districts. In fact, you find that provinces like Southern, that has over 21 districts, receives more money than even a large area than Northern Province that might have 13 districts. So the solution is in delimiting more districts, because the national budget funds districts. It doesn't fund constituencies. You need to understand how the structure of our budget is designed. It funds the state, the province, and the district. And if you have a lot of districts, like now Western Province, because Mr. Sata said, look, Western Province is the poorest in the country. And he says there are so many districts far apart, government services is not available to our people. Mr. Sata added 16 new districts, 16 new districts to Western Province. And if you have seen now on the poverty levels, Western Province is no longer the poorest province in our country. It's now number 3. Luapula and Muchinga have taken over. They're the poorest provinces in the country. So the idea that Mr. Sata had of funding districts, so you can imagine that Western Province now has been receiving, instead of the initial 9 districts it's had, plus 16, 25, it now has been receiving funding for each district for the last 10 years. And you can see in the demographics of poor people begin to change. So that's where the investments must be, not in our parliament, not expanding our parliament. In fact, if there is any place where you need participation of women and young people, again, it's at that local level to ensure that political parties adopt women and youth and let them participate and expand, use the delimitation process, not to expand constituencies, but number of wards. That is the solution. I've missed a call from our dear brother here. Okay. Someone has sent a voice note, but it appears like it's not opening. Okay, let me take some more calls. Today, we're discussing the issue of the constitution that has been roundly rejected by all stakeholders, the Catholic Church, Evangelical Fellowship of Zambia, the CCZ, they've all rejected this. You go to civil society, the major 12 groupings led by Chapter 1 Foundation have rejected this. There's even a smaller grouping of 7 NGOs where Gears is and where other NGOs, SACOD and others are, which has been, you would say, reasonable. It usually supports government on many policy pronouncements, has also rejected this bill. This bill has no support other than the echo chambers that UPND and this media are manufacturing on ZMBC. They are getting young people here, they get a chief there, they get who to create echo chambers that this process has been supported. But the genuine stakeholders of our countries have rejected it. So the proposal to expand parliament for me is not something I can support. I would rather support the capacity to local government. That's where you need work, and the expansion of more districts, places that are very large and might need new district. I think that's where the solution to developing and to delivering equitably across the country, that's where you should take the resources. Okay, that was our debate today. There were side issues that were very important that we discussed. Ambassador, have you seen the statement by Sishua? I think I read it. He has explained, he's got part 2 of the article he wrote. There was part 1 and now there's part 2. I will speak to it, but even him has gone item by item to debunk the myth that we actually need these constitutional amendments. So thank you for that, my dear brother. Yes, she has unpacked the dangers of the proposed amendments in 2 articles. Another one of importance that has commented is Honorable Doris Leah. I think she also spent a lot of time discussing the history of constitutional making process. And in all the processes, consultation has been key. This process doesn't have consultation at all. There's another Professor Piri from University of Zambia has called for maximum caution on the constitutional reforms. This is Professor Bizek Piri, who has urged the Zambian government that there was need to look for long-term solutions and recognize long-term implications to future generation over these short-term political gains that government wishes to gain. Remember, government is claiming that they want to allow women and youths to participate. Well, Guess Nyirenda, who represents the youths, has rejected this. And then GOCC, Madam Katebe, has also rejected this bill. Professor Bizek Piri here is also clearly saying there is no enough time to build consensus. There is no such thing as non-contentious issues, as we have seen. And the bigger issue, process protects content. That's not available in this process. EFF Humphrey has sent me this. He says Zambians must reject the imposed bogus constitutional making process. He's a Copper Belt youth under EFF, and he says it should be rejected. It should not be supported. And I think even their president has spoken about this. Okay. Okay, I think I've read the messages. Let me check unless there was some on my Facebook page that we can quickly check. Mr. Aaron Muntali is saying, let the opposition team up to support civil society who have spoken against this bill. Only concerted efforts will help us stop this. Okay. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, if there are no other calls, I hear there are challenges in Zambia with both network and network. You can watch this program over and over again. That's the purpose of Facebook. At least it keeps the recording. You can watch it any other later. In fact, every time I review the number of people watching and the number of people that watch by the following day, I see that more people watch after we've ended the program. Today, we're discussing the issues of the Constitution. The Law Association of Zambia have issued a categorical statement in which they've asked President Hakainde Hichilema to withdraw this bill, and they've given various reasons why it should be withdrawn. Their anchor organization that had supported this process, NGOCC, says, no. Although the women may benefit from this process, the process is not clear, it's not transparent. The process doesn't protect content. There's no legal framework for it, so they rejected it. Guess Nyirenda, OIV, who supports and speaks for young people and students, also added his voice and has rejected this. Nearly, then you have the 12 NGOs led by Chapter 1 Foundation, TIZ and others. They've rejected this process. You have the 7 NGOs where Gears, SACOD and others are. They've rejected this process. You have the church and the main mother bodies have rejected this process. What kind of obstinacy is this where you want to proceed with something that has been rejected? Earlier, I'd made comments about Suresh Desai's derogatory remarks, calling the U.S. ambassadors evil. I think he needs to apologize for those remarks or he should resign. Similarly, Chipoka Mulenga, who's Commerce Minister, at the height of the debate on stolen medicines, he's been quoted by news diggers where he said, Musungu na wala tushupa, derogatory and racist remarks. He should also apologize or resign. Then we have the latest from Mansa Diocese, where Bishop Patrick Chilekwa Chisanga has, the diocese has issued a statement under Father Felix Chifumbe, who has rejected the donation of 800,000 kwacha donated by President Hakainde Hichilema to Lubwe Mission, which is celebrating 120 years. The preparations are underway. I think there's a huge celebration in June, this month on the 28th. So Peter Kapala, the energy minister, who's the livestock minister, former energy minister, who comes from the area and I think is campaigning in Chifunabuli, announced at a fundraiser that there'll be a donation of 800,000 kwacha that had been pledged by President Hakainde Hichilema. The church has been quick to reject it. They want a process that is run by the church, not by political parties, not by partisan affiliation. They want a church function not to be hijacked. These donations that President Hakainde Hichilema is making, 1.8 million here, 900,000 here, 800,000 here, calls for us, for that issue we are saying the president must declare his assets, his business interest, his liabilities, and wherever he has pecuniary advantage, he must declare that. That's what Article 261, Article 263, and the Parliamentary and Ministerial Code of Conduct call for. In fact, the declaration must be made every year. And key members of the government, such as the Speaker, the Chief Justice and his judges, the Speaker and he or her MPs, government ministers and the President must make this declaration every year. For the minister, on the anniversary that they were appointed, they need to lodge in fresh disclosures of their assets, liabilities, and business interests. With that, we'd like to thank you for joining us in this debate. Until we have another topic and another time, God bless you, God bless our country, and God save whoever is trying to mess with our country. Shalom.